Today we're going to be going over all the settings that Nvidia has to offer in OBS Studio. If you haven't met me before, my name is Michael and these are my different views. This channel will help you find equipment used for live streaming or just video creation and how to actually use that equipment. If that sounds interesting to you, then consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on anything. Being a programmer, I have to stick to the dry method. And for those who don't know, dry stands for don't repeat yourself. And when I was writing these videos out, figuring out what needs to be in these videos and making them, I realized that I'm probably just going to repeating the same information over and over and over, which is I want to give you the most knowledge as possible. And doing so, when I would tell you what settings that we have to set in order to make things look the best, I want to tell you why and what the setting actually does. So instead of saying what the setting does in every single one of those videos, I'm just going to put it in this video. So this is going to be a highly technical video. It's going to be probably really overloading in information, so you might have to watch it a couple times in order to get everything. If you really want to, you can probably take some notes to fully understand things. You can refer back to this video if you ever need more information, and I will be referring back to this video whenever I set up a setting and I say why, and then the reason or how this is actually being used and why is said in this video right here. So if you're here from the future, welcome. If you're here to understand things, feel free to skip through. There'll be timestamps in the description of what setting is where, and that's it. Reason for this is so that we have shorter, best setting videos, as well as all you guys having the knowledge that you can ever possibly need in order to tweak these settings on your own, and that's a win-win. So let's get ahead onto these settings and overload ourselves. Oh, also, I'm definitely not remembering most of these things. I will be reading off of a piece of paper, so forgive me for that. However, I'm just not going to remember all of these settings. If we head on over to the Output tab and we go ahead and click on Advanced, because that's how you're going to get all the information here. We go to the Recording tab, and then we're going to keep this type on Standard. You can put it to Custom Output, but if you're watching this video, then you're not going to you're not going to really understand what settings these are. So just leave it on Standard, because that's what we're going to be going over today. Recording path is just as you would assume, where all your recordings are going to go. Generate file without spaces is just generating the file name without a space or with a space. It'll add the date on it. So it'll have the date with a space, it'll have it without. Now the recording format, there is many different recording formats, so let's go over these. Just know that these are just containers for the videos themselves. There's not really a best one to use. There's not really one that's going to give you a higher quality video. It's just the container of the video itself. If you're recording something important, you're going to want to use FLV and MKV, because if OBS crashes, then you still get a usable file. But the downside of this is that editing programs do not actually allow you to import those because they just can't read them for some reason. Hopefully in the future that'll be fixed, but for now they just don't work like that. But there is a way that we can fix this. We can remux them literally inside of OBS itself. If you go to File, Remux Recordings, then you can see that we can add a MKV or an FLV file right here, and then it'll remux those or change the container of those to an MP4. You'll still have the benefits of having multiple audio tracks within these files, and either like as an MP4, and it's just that added layer of protection. So if you want to take the extra time to go ahead and remux all your videos after you're done recording, because you would rather make sure that you have a usable file if OBS crashes, then that's really the only drawback. So talking about the major things right there, let's go ahead and dive deep into each of these containers and what they're going to actually be doing. FLV is a flash video. It allows multiple audio tracks. It's used mainly for the web. Support is, however, being dropped in 2020. This year. And like I said, it still has a usable file if OBS crashes, and it does not import into video editors. MP4s are similar in a way, which they have multiple audio tracks, but the video file becomes unusable if OBS crashes. However, it does import right away, so you don't have to take that time to remux the recordings for that one. MOV is Apple QuickTime Movie. It has multiple audio tracks. It does become an unusable file if OBS crashes, and it does import into the popular editors. So the MKVs is a Matroska video file. It does have multiple audio tracks. It is used mainly for the web. It does have a usable file if OBS crashes, but it does not import into the popular video editors. The TS file is a transport stream video MPEG-2. It's commonly used in the broadcasting systems such as DVB and ATSC. It is also a video stream file format for storing video on DVDs, like those physical discs. If OBS crashes while you're recording this, the file does stay intact up until the crash. And I was able to import this into Premiere with multiple audio tracks. However, I don't recommend using this because it is built to store the video files on the physical DVDs, not what we're intending the video files for. M3UA is a UTF-8 encoded audio playlist file. They are plain text files that can both be used audio and video players to describe where the media files are located. Not sure why this is here, and it doesn't even play in VLC, but hey, if OBS crashes, you don't have an unrecoverable file. Obviously, it doesn't import into the video editors. Now, I do want to say that there's probably some, or if you're in the future, that you might be able to import those MKV and FLV files. And if so, I would just go with that then. If you can just import MKVs straight into your video editor and use that 100% with no problems at all, then I would say, yeah, you should record an MKV so that you get those multiple audio tracks. It is a supported video file, and it's easy to edit. If you can't import the MKVs into your editor, then I would think about maybe using MP4s or using MKVs and then remuxing them at the end, just to make sure that if that OBS does crash, you have that whole file still up until the crash so that you don't lose your work. And do note that once you're done recording, you can set OBS to automatically remux, so you don't have to manually go in and drag the file in there and remux it. You can just say, hey, OBS, when I hit stop recording, automatically remux this file so that I don't even have to think about it. It just does it in the background. The audio tracks here are exactly what you think they are. You have up to 6 audio tracks. You can record them separately. Like I've been saying, the MKV supports multiple audio tracks. MP4s do as well. You can do up to that, and you can set these, you can set what actually streams into these audio tracks within the advanced audio properties, which is a separate menu system. The encoder itself is what the video is based around, the Nvidia settings. You have a new one and an old one. The new one affects cards 700 series and above, but you'll find the best performance improvements in the 20 series and above. And then you got this custom muxer settings here. Now, this does add some sort of data to the videos. I couldn't really find any strong data on this to really pinpoint exactly what it does. If you know what it is, please let me know, and then we can share it with everybody else. Next is the rate control, and we have a few different options here: CBR, CQP, VBR, and lossless. Let's go over each one individually. CBR stands for constant bitrate. It is an encoding method that keeps the bitrate at the same amount of data being saved for every single frame. CQP is constant quantization parameter. This keeps your video at the same quality for every frame you see. This changes the bitrate for each frame in order to make it in the quality that you want it. VBR is variable bitrate. This varies the amount of output data per time segment. When there is less stuff going on, there's not so much data being saved, and vice versa. When there's a lot more stuff going on, a lot more data is being saved. And then there's lossless, which is exactly how it sounds. This saves all of the data, everything that you see, a lot. So only use this if you have like a lot of space. A lot of space. And for the keyframe interval, we're going to start at just a keyframe itself, which is a whole image. The next frame is just a data set saying what is the difference between that one keyframe, that whole image that we have, and this data set here. If the data set is too big of a difference, then the whole keyframe is then sent. So a whole new one is sent. If you don't care about the bandwidth at all, then set this to 0. and let the encoder decide. Whew, that was a lot to go on. I still have more to go, but before we dive more into there, if you're feeling mentally exhausted, I am sorry. I know this is a lot of information. Again, feel free to skip around, but if you're finding value out of this, then hit that like button and consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on any future best settings videos. Moving on down to the preset, I think this is a little bit self-explanatory. Basically, you're just setting this to where your computer needs to. The low latency tries to minimize any lag in other network applications caused by the stream. That gives a higher risk of dropping frames. Profile, again, is pretty much the same thing as the preset. Pi main baseline, it just depends on how much quality that you're trying to reach. And then we have two checkboxes here. Look ahead is a setting that allows the encoder to dynamically select the number of B frames, which we'll go over later, between 0 and the number of B frames that you specify later. Checking this will increase the quality, but you gotta be careful because it can negatively affect high motion content. Next on the list is the psychovisual tuning. This enables the rate distortion optimization in the encoder, which greatly optimizes the way you use bitrate, improving the image quality on movement. This GPU setting is the GPU that you're using to encode things. I know I'm not supposed to be telling you what settings to use in this video, but just leave it at 0. You should only be using one GPU anyway. And especially if you're using the new NVENC encoder, because if you're using a different GPU to encode with the new NVENC, then it just completely negates the new way that it all works. And then the last but not least is max B frames. This is what the look ahead feature uses. And for the max B frame settings, now B frames are frames that are like grouped together to show the viewer and they proceed something after, and it's a lot of jargon that we really don't need to know. Again, I'm not supposed to tell you what to do in this video. However, this is pretty much not going to change. Set it to 2. Don't change it at all. Leave it at 2. Unless you're doing really low motion stuff, like maybe like chess or something like that, then you can set it to 4. However, I would do several tests in order to make sure that everything is going good, because this consumes quite a bit of bitrate and it will decrease the quality on movement if you have it set too high. And that's all the settings. I hope I didn't melt your brain too badly. More videos with fun information are on your screen right now. Take this knowledge, improve your look, help somebody else, and I'll see you again. Until then, stay different.